Since the perfection of the all is in the Father, it is necessary for the all to ascend to him. Therefore, if one has gnosis, he gets what belongs to him and draws it to himself. For he who is ignorant is deficient, and it is a great deficiency, since he lacks that which will make him perfect. Since the perfection of the all is in the Father, it is necessary for the all to ascend to him and for each one to get the things which are his. Here again, the reference to the all is in my view a reference to all individual conscious agents, all souls. The Marvin Meyer book, the Nag Hammadi Scriptures, suggests that the all is the eons, but that does not really resonate with me. It is based on a Gnostic idea of the nature of creation that I don't readily accept. It merely points out that in all writings that claim to have mystical revelation, they all have the input of those writing and the culture in which they exist. We here in the 21st century with knowledge that the foundational aspect of reality is information and consciousness do not have to depend on eons for creation. The Logos is sufficient. When it states if one has gnosis, it is simply in modern terms saying if one has knowledge of the Father and her, his relationship to him, them, then that one gets what belongs to her or him, which is a knowledge of their divinity and connection to the parent source. It is also possible that one can actually develop the ability to change reality through mental alchemy. It is calling this knowledge ascension. It is stating the Hermetic principle of correspondence. Simply stated as above so below, as below so above. Getting the things which are his is the knowledge of the divine nature and a step toward the ability to use mental alchemy in one's life. Mental alchemy is simply the ability to focus the will to change circumstances in the material and corporeal plane. This could be in the form of healing or as the law of attraction suggests to bring about circumstances and things desired. He registered them first, having prepared them to be given to those who came from him. Those whose name he knew first were called last, so that the one who has gnosis is he whose name the Father has pronounced. For he whose name has not been spoken is ignorant. Indeed, how shall one hear if his name has not been uttered? For he who remains ignorant until the end is a creature of forgetfulness and will perish with it. Okay, I need to take a deep breath. With this portion of the gospel of truth, if I maintain the view that Orthodox Christianity developed, it can sound like some do not make it and simply perish. However, if one adopts the view that we are eternal, and considers the Hermetic idea of as above so below, and as below so above, then if the parent above is eternal, the image-bearer, the offspring below is likewise eternal. Looking further into the natural world around us, we see cycles. There are cycles of days, years, and seasons. There is the water cycle, and the cycles of trees having leaves and then a season of barren. It follows that we too as conscious agents, individual souls, also cycle. We can look at the many cycles that humans experience. There is the cycle of each day in human experience. There is a cycle of work, recreation, and sleep. The purpose of sleep is restorative rest. Within the daily human cycle there are opportunities for acquiring knowledge, gaining experience, learning, having adventures and expanding awareness. It logically follows that the same would be true in the spiritual realm for individual souls. Each at different stages of development. The soul cycle would be incarnation, death, and reincarnation. Each cycle includes choice and the chance to rest when desired. It does not have to be a one finite experience whereby when it is over one perishes. That does not fit the cycle pattern. It is in this area that I believe the cycle is a spiral upward. Spiral dynamics shows that cultures cycle upward from one plane to another. This is likewise the course of individual conscious agents, also known as individual souls. In this way, even though the material body perishes, the soul does not. The soul is indeed eternal and eternally divine. It is simply at different stages of development on a prior self-determined path. It is possible that there are soul families or soul committees that plan the experiences, but it is most definitely not the parent setting the course and the goal through edict. Each soul is a co-creator. If this is not so, why have these wretches no name? Why do they have no sound? Hence, if one has gnosis, he is from above. If he is called, he hears, he replies, and he turns toward him who called him and he ascends to him and he knows what he is called. Since he has gnosis, he does the will of him who called him. He desires to please him and he finds rest. He receives a certain name. He who thus is going to have gnosis knows whence he came and whither he is going. He knows it as a person who, having become intoxicated, has turned from his drunkenness and having come to himself, has restored what is his own. This is describing Jesus and his mission. The wretches are all of those who did not realize that they were the children of the Father. They were all of the ones who had forgotten who they were and where they came from. They are the ones who have forgotten their divinity and did not remember it. That is what made Jesus unique. Many other mystics got close, but Jesus declared that he was the divine offspring of the parent. So far as I know, that makes him unique among mystics. It is important to realize the difference between him saying he was God and saying he was divine and the Son of God. This is a place where orthodoxy has especially got it twisted. Also, this is where universalism becomes informative and important. One must remove the thinking that this one material life is all there is. Evangelical dogma misuses Hebrews chapter 9 verse 27. The verse does not eliminate reincarnation. Each incarnation is a different and unique mortal body. That is what lives once and only once. Each incarnation very likely has a tribunal review. In fact, this review could quite possibly be the aspect that rights any wrongs and brings about divine justice. It may be that in that process, in that moment, the realization of the evil done, in view of our divine nature, could be all the punishment necessary. Here is a good point to turn to the Kybalion. Though written in 1908, the content is obviously inspired by the creative source. It offers a plausible theodicy above any other I have found. While this passage is speaking of higher beings, it is true of all individual conscious agents, no matter what stage of development they are in. The legends of the fallen angels have a basis in actual facts, as all advanced occultists know. The striving for selfish power on the spiritual planes inevitably results in the selfish soul losing its spiritual balance and falling back as far as it had previously risen. But to even such a soul, the opportunity of a return is given, and such souls make the return journey, paying the terrible penalty according to the invariable law. The Kybalion, pp.89. You can see here that all souls are given a chance of redemption. He has turned many from error. He went before them to their own places, from which they departed when they erred because of the depth of him who surrounds every place, whereas there is nothing which surrounds him. It was a great wonder that they were in the Father without knowing him and that they were able to leave on their own, since they were not able to contain him and know him in whom they were. For indeed his will had not come forth from him. For he revealed it as a gnosis with which all its emanations agree, namely, the gnosis of the living book which he revealed to the eons at last as his letters, displaying to them that these are not merely vowels nor consonants, so that one may read them and think of something void of meaning. On the contrary, they are letters which convey the truth. They are pronounced only when they are known. Each letter is a perfect truth like a perfect book, for they are letters written by the hand of the Unity, since the Father wrote them for the eons, so that they by means of his letters might come to know the Father. This is the place that Gnosticism breaks down for me. The eons, also known as the archons and very similar to the angels, are an attempt to explain the existence of evil. It is an elaborate system of creation and various schools of Gnosticism explain it differently. Essentially, the eons were the first created beings and they in turn created humanity and did so in a fallen way. At this point I am more comfortable with the fact that we all, conscious agents, conscious souls, are the creators of material reality. The Hermetic principle of polarity explains the presence of evil. That principle states the following. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. We do not need an elaborate hierarchy to explain it. One cannot understand or experience good unless the polar opposite is experienced as well. Polarity is a necessary offshoot of material reality and is not necessary in purely conscious or spiritual reality. If my view of material reality, which is consciousness experiencing its knowledge, then the archons are not necessary. I would rather believe that they are created thought forms that result from humanity's reasoning about spiritual things. The thoughts of groups and individuals create these thought forms, and when created they have power. This is similar to the idea of egregores and most likely are the reality of Paul's statements about principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. These thought forms take on a reality of their own, and the way to rise above them is through spiritual gnosis and faith. They do not represent the idea that deity is apart from the creation and that there are various levels of created beings. It could simply be the creation of different dimensions that we as conscious agents explore for experience. I do not want to conflate these egregores or thought forms with higher beings. The Kybalion states that there are higher beings on higher planes. Many are good and some are not so good. Those not so good do pay a penalty for the evil they bring. See the quote from the Kybalion above. We can rest in the fact that there is universal mystical truth in Psalm chapter 91. There is a quote in the Kybalion about the parent that is similar. Remember, I am an egalitarian Gnostic. All can rest. It is not based on performance. It is not based on the level of awakening. While his wisdom meditates on the Logos, and since his teaching expresses it, his Gnosis has been revealed. His honor is a crown upon it. Since his joy agrees with it, his glory exalted it. It has revealed his image. It has obtained his rest. His love took bodily form around it. His trust embraced it. Thus the Logos of the Father goes forth into the all, being the fruit of his heart and expression of his will. Still talking about Jesus of Nazareth, who became aware of the indwelling Logos of the Father. He is the means by which the Father gave the knowledge of the indwelling Logos to all. It is important to state that since it is a common belief that humanity was created in the image of God, and since God is not really anthropomorphic, the image of God is the Logos, or consciousness. Therefore, it is my belief, and it resonates with me, that humanity has always had the indwelling Logos. But, as the Gospel states from the beginning, we humans forget it upon incarnation. So here again in greater detail the mission and message of Jesus is presented.